Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. I'm going to try and move my mic really gently because keeps disconnecting on me. So, as we go live, I was running around and I was just trying to make sure I'm here on time, and I'm here, and obviously excited to be back as always and be chatting with everybody today. So, as we dive in, we're going to talk a lot about what appears to be happening with the future job market. And as always, whatever I put out there as a title, it's just something that we can chat about in our downtime. We don't really need to follow any agenda today. I'm just here to help and answer any questions. So as people come in, throw those questions in there. Let me know where you're visiting from, and basically all comments, questions are absolutely welcome. To start, let's just take a moment to dive in. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and I have an interview mastery course. But as you can see, that little banner down at the bottom, we've officially opened up our early adopter sign up for our AI tool. So what does it mean to be an early adopter? If you go to practiceinterviews.com/AI, you can sign up. We are going to be slowly bringing people into the platform to gather user feedback. Why? Because all of what I think, my hypothesis, they don't really matter unless they're validated by you, the user. So you have a great opportunity to shape how this AI interview practice tool is going to look. Also, what I can't guarantee is that every early adopter will have early access to the tool. What I can guarantee is that anybody who signs up as an early adopter will get a discount when the tool is officially launched globally. And that's why I'm trying to urge people to sign up, because I want to be able to give those discounts to as many people as possible. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, go to practiceinterviews.com. Make sure you sign up, because I'll be throwing out a bunch of offers there. We're definitely going to have a killer Black Friday sale this month. So just lots of things coming up. I know this is all intense and is going to feel pretty crazy as we're at November 7th and we're really pushing and really getting into the end of year push. And I'll continue to check in with the audience to see, hey, how long do you want me to go live this year? I always am checking in and just making sure that as we get into December, people are still interested in hearing me chat. They're just ready for an overall break. So that's something that we'll engage with as we move forward. But I don't have any plans to take any lives off for the rest of the year up until that holiday season. And then I'll touch base with you, the audience. I did not have the opportunity to produce a new video yesterday, so we don't need to chat about that. I will be back with original content next Monday. So let's dive in. If you like what I'm doing, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I do go live every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. If I'm not going to go live, I'll definitely announce it to the community on YouTube and chat about it in these live sessions. So let's dive in, and thank you so much for being here. Hey, Jeff, your content is amazing. Thank you so much for that. On a previous live, you told me that a good anchor for an L6 strategy position was in the high fours to low fives. Okay. My recruiter mentioned in our initial comp conversations that they were targeting around 350 total comp. What's the best way to re-anchor the numbers you suggested? I wouldn't. So I believe, and I'm just going to go with Gunther. I believe Gunther, if I remember correctly, I would have only recommended these numbers if you were in a premium plus market. So to me, you're probably either in the Bay Area or New York. I don't remember, but specifically for a strategy position, that's the only way I would have given you those numbers. If you're hearing 350, I would go into the high fours. That's what they're targeting. And you could say, look, I think we're starting to get in the same ballpark. My target compensation is 486,500 or whatever you're going to say. If you don't feel comfortable going from 350 to the fives, I get it, but you should be targeting in the high fours to ultimately bring that L6 offer into the fours. An L6 role in a premium plus market, it's non-tech, but it shouldn't pay in the threes. It should definitely get into the low fours, and that's what I've seen historically. So mid threes, low fours means we anchor high fours. And again, please come back with any questions. We can absolutely dive deeper into this subject. Happy to do it. Thank you so much for loving my content. I love when my audience shows up. So thank you so much for being here. Hey, Mohammed. Thank you so much. Session title scared me. Yeah. And so again, I mean, obviously a little bit of this is playing into trying to draw an audience in. And I just want to recognize that the thumbnails can be really fun. They can be gloom or doom, all that stuff. But the reality is that I think the job market's going to have some significant challenges next year. And then hopefully we'll see an uptick in 2025. But it's not all gloom and doom. We got to always look at the positive side of things always. Okay. Visiting from Berkeley. Awesome. So beautiful up there. Okay. I'll be having some calls with recruiters, Fang. Simultaneously, my husband is in the interview process with a company in London. So there's a possibility that we might move in 9 to 12 months. Okay. Should I be transparent with the recruiters and inform them, or should I first go through the interview process in the USA? If the opportunity in London arises, try to negotiate a transfer. Absolutely the latter, just because there's only a possibility of London. Now, hey, I think many people know, and you may not know, but my story is I tried multiple times when I was working at Google to move to London. It didn't happen. And so, again, I'm just playing off of my scenario, but anybody's scenario, if it's not guaranteed, go get that job and then worry about that when it comes up. We can't control that item right now. And you're definitely going to shut a lot of opportunities down if you just introduce that. And by the way, here's the good news: if you're interviewing with Fang, there's going to be an opportunity to reload to London, probably, right? It's going to be a better opportunity than you would have with most companies. Also, while not recommended, there may be an opportunity to be apart for a little bit. And if you get a job in Fang and your husband moves to London and you need to stay separated a little bit, I know that that's not the ideal scenario, but my preferred scenario is that you get the job and the compensation you want, and you get creative. And I can tell you, like, this is a scenario that I had with my wife, is that I moved to take the job at Google. She stayed behind, and then we worked it out. So it's not ideal, but it's possible. I know London might be far away. Hey, Liz, thank you for showing up every week. I appreciate it. Okay. Google Toronto has paused TAM hiring, even though you were 4 interviews in. They said maybe in Q1 they'll open up. Have you seen this before? And do you think they'll open up positions? 100%. We've seen TAM roles paused almost across the board. I think there's been some outlier cases where we have seen them moving forward for TAMs, but it's on a case-by-case basis. But this is what I've heard globally, is that most TAM roles have been shut down. Do I think they'll come back in Q1? I mean, I do. I think it's a really important role. And quite honestly, Google doesn't pay TAMs as well as some of the other roles, so it comes in at a little bit of a lower price point for them. It's not something that they should really consider when thinking about roles, but it's just something to keep in mind. So I do think those roles will come back. Obviously, it's just a best guess. But we have heard about TAM paused hiring and a lot of some other GCP roles being impacted as well. Hey, Corey, thanks for being here as always. Thanks for doing these lives, even when hiring has been slow this year. It's been slow, right? And I think that I hope that the other creators that you follow, or just that everybody's being transparent. For me and what happened to my business this year, I mean, I can tell you last year to this year was, I mean, it was such a pivot and shift from basically what I saw over the 3 years. 2020, 2021, and 2022 were great years for my business. And why? Because my business is directly correlated to hiring, and not just tech hiring, but tech hiring is a big part of it, but hiring overall. And this year was brutal. And I tried to open a corporate business. And this is obviously one of the reasons why I'm pivoting to my AI practice interview tool. It's been a really tough year. It has been hard to show up. We had a couple lives where, I mean, candidly, nobody showed up, right? There was one live where I think I went live for 30 minutes, which is really strange. So it has been slow. In the downtimes, we can talk about the subject matter, but I just want to say how much I appreciate this community. We're not getting 100 to 200 participants like we were last year in these lives, but the community is really engaging, and we're getting good hour to hour and a half live sessions every Tuesday with a smaller audience, which means everybody who's showing up is staying pretty engaged, which I sincerely appreciate, because it's not only the questions, it's the comments, it's the information. We all know information is power. And so I appreciate everybody showing up and continuing to show up during these very slow times. Hey, Jeff, any news on the GCP hiring freeze? Did anything change in the last couple of weeks? So yes, I have seen some positions open up. I had a couple negotiation clients, and we've kind of gotten back into the negotiation phase, which gives me a sense. I continue to get interview clients who are coming in for these roles. So I don't think that they totally ever shut down the interviewing for GCP roles. It was just getting to that final stage. So I've seen some loosening. Like, what's going on across the board? Is it all open? No, as we're seeing those TAM roles have kind of been shut down until next year. So I think it's a little bit more case by case. And this is kind of just historically what I've seen from a company like a Google, is that there's always outlier cases. It's never always that rigid, even though they're a big company and they follow like policies and procedures like any other big company would. I haven't seen quite that rigidity. So I have seen them moving forward with some, but an indication that it's all open or all closed, I haven't really seen that. I have seen some roles opening up. I hope that helps. Hey, Jeff, finished my on-site for a system engineer role at G headquarters at the end of September. During the interviews, my recruiter got laid off, and then another recruiter took my profile. Okay. New recruiter says my profile is positive from the team, but didn't come up with an offer yet. Seems team is interviewing other candidates to finalize their decision. Should you wait or move on? Both. You should wait, in terms of you should just wait to hear back from them. Continue to check in, right? What that means is if you didn't do well, they would have rejected you. They would have just let you go. So obviously you did well. You did well enough, but they just want to see other candidates. Now, that could be driven by two items. You did well, but it wasn't so outstanding that they could just move forward with you. But the more likely scenario is you probably were earlier and they just wanted to talk to more candidates, but we just won't have that data point. So yes, so when I say wait and move on, so I want you to wait. But obviously, if you're able to crush interviews at Google and be considered for Google, you should move on in the sense that you should continue to interview. But no, I definitely want you to wait on that opportunity. Don't close it out. I hope that helps. And then let's go to this last one, and then I'll go backwards. Can you throw some light on what goes background after what goes? Can you throw some light on what background after team says it's positive? So it really depends. If you were interviewing for a specific team, then you'd get a hiring manager would write a statement of support, and you'd likely go to hiring committee. Committee can be skipped for very clear hires, but if it wasn't a specific team, but more of a general sys engineer role, then you'd go into the team match phase, have some of those casual conversations, then get matched with a team. Then they write the statement of support, hiring committee. Then after hiring committee approves you, you get into offer negotiations. Once you verbally approve, they'll send you an offer letter, and then they'll run a background check on you. If you have any more questions, please let me know. Good morning, Jeff. As always, thank you so much for your amazing content. Dropping here to share that you are a key contributor for my new L6 suite position at Google. Thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate people coming back and just sharing the good vibes, right? It's been such a tough year. And I always kind of reference, and we've already referenced this a number of times today, but we might get 10 plus of these in a live session last year. But this year, maybe we get one, which is just an indication that there's been less hiring, and that's okay. But when people come back, first of all, it's just a massive form of gratitude. And it's probably one of the reasons why you did well in the interviews. Gratitude is just a strong foundational item that leads to success in all aspects of life. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but it's also just to show up and come back when you don't really need to. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much for coming back and letting us know. And of course, to anybody who's watching, if you have any tips on the suite prep that you want to share that really helped you, but ultimately anybody who's successful in the interview, they have really put in the time and effort. And while I hope that my content helps a little, it's ultimately about your time, your focus, and your ability to just dive in as much as you can and put in the work. So congrats and thank you so much again. Okay, we're already out of questions. We got a pretty good audience right now. Anything and everything that you can think of, please throw it out there. Let's talk a little bit. In the downtimes, I'll always kind of fall back on to the title of our session. So 2024 job market predictions, it's looking a little tough. I think from a tech perspective, we just haven't seen enough of an uptick in hiring this year to make it feel as though we're swinging into next year and feeling good about the economy overall. There are some recessionary items that are coming up that could push down hiring as well. In the US, sometimes we see these positive job reports, but they can be a little bit tough to gauge because a lot of people have left the job market. They're starting to work for themselves. So it's not always as transparent as we need it to be. And not that that could ever be a perfect process. We will also start to see in 2024, in my opinion, again, this is only my opinion, but in 2024, I think we'll start to see a trend of more positions being replaced by AI because the advancements are going to couple on top of each other. And so we're hitting this stage where the technology is going to advance exponentially and it's going to happen really, really quickly. And I just think that I talk about it so much, and I think some people probably get annoyed by it. And I pretty much know. I know some people don't want to have the AI conversation, but we always need to be talking about it. It's here. And I want to be really transparent to say that my goal is to exit my business as quickly as possible because I can see the writing on the wall. That's why I'm creating an AI tool, because I know that I'm going to be replaced, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But it's having the recognition that it's happening and that it's coming. And my one big challenge, and forgive me for my tangent, we have Corey's comment, but I'm still waiting for some more comments to come in. I think sometimes the challenge with comparing human to AI is that we look at humans as infallible, meaning we're looking at the best possible version of a human when comparing it to AI and not looking at the other side of the coin. And so anytime you're thinking about your role getting replaced, AI replacing an industry, a role, a position, etc., think about the non-perfect human. Because I talk a lot about AI replacing recruiters, and then there's so much pushback about this amazing experience that recruiters give candidates. But I think anybody on this live would agree that they've had at least one negative experience with a recruiter, if not a lot. So when you're thinking about AI and job replacement, think about the non-perfect human, and that might change your perspective a little bit. I'm done with my tangent. Let's get back to questions. Hey, Corey, what would be the first What first step would you take as a recruiter or sourcer newly on the market? How would you recommend balancing slash upskilling, reskilling with your job search? So any recruiter or sourcer that's new to the market, uh, again, toughest feedback would be don't go after a recruiter or sourcer role. Those roles are going to go away. I think the recruiter's more replaceable than the sourcer right now. While there's AI sourcing tools, the creativity in sourcing, I think there's still a lot of need for sourcing, but the recruiting, not as much. Now, balancing upskilling versus reskilling. Okay, so what do we know about recruiters and like or similar positions? Definitely a lot of space to get into DEI initiatives, DEI roles, diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you're not familiar with DEI, there's also a lot of, for really good recruiters who are really organized and like working on projects. There's a lot of opportunity to move more into project and program management. So, like, you want to upskill, get a PMP, or I don't know how valuable those are, but I do think a PMP is valuable in the sense that it teaches some really good foundational project management skills. I've taken pieces of that course, or pieces of a PMP, and I found some of those tools to be really valuable. So those are a couple of ways. And then just the last thing is when you're thinking about upskilling or reskilling, like, it's all about optimizing the LinkedIn profile to cater to the jobs you're going after. And I think that's just, for anybody who's new to the job market, that's just that's something I haven't seen as much optimization as I would like. And Corey, I hope you weren't impacted by anything, but I hope this is valuable for other people who may be looking. In team matching stage at G, heard from a recruiter that a team liked me, and it's now between me and another candidate. The team has to make a decision today or tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I wish you the best of luck. Yeah, it's going to be a long day, probably, just waiting, but I wish you the best of luck. And Max, please come back next week and let us know the result. All right, Eric, how do you determine the level of a potential job at companies like Dropbox, Box, and Snowflake? Okay, so yes, sometimes, even though these are all big companies, right? In comparison to the world, like, these are big companies, but I will spend some time on levels.fyi just to understand the compensation ranges. Usually that will give me a sense of where I might land from a leveling perspective. Teamblind.com is absolutely probably the best in terms of commentary in regards to the tech specific markets and companies. Absolutely, these three companies, I would be looking those up. Also, sometimes what we find is that there's less data on our specific role, but more data on software engineers. That's always kind of the default. So if there's not a lot of information on your role, go on to levels.fyi and see what engineers are making and kind of understand your typical role. Like, non-technical will make about 70% of what an engineer is, and then add a little bit of technicality or program or product management, and then it's going to get closer to what they make. But I think looking at software engineers comp can be a really valuable lesson to not only understand, like, how is this company going to compensate overall, but how does it work in comparison to other jobs, and then again look at the leveling from there. I hope that helps. Hey, Jeff, always good to see you. I think AI is going to change the landscape of conventional hiring in IT. Hey, Raul, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing those couple of articles on the Slack channel. I always forget to mention the Slack channel, but we have 4,000 members in there. It's been slower in 2023 in terms of comments and feedback and everything, but really a good place if you go to practiceinterviews.com/free resources or go to the free resources tab. You can join our Slack community. Here's what I think. Again, this AI conversation, it's not going away, and we need to be really open-minded. But if we're going back to what I was saying just 5 minutes ago, uh, I think that AI is going to change the landscape of hiring because I think that hiring should be handled by AI completely. It will remove roadblocks. It will shorten the time of process. It will remove bias. And people don't like that idea or opinion, but in 3 years, I don't think that many people will be interviewing with humans. I just don't think that will be the case. I could be completely wrong. There's no reason why AI can't conduct a bunch of the interviews and then have the hiring manager do a real interview. There's no reason why AI can't take a candidate fully through the process. They'll do it quicker. The feedback will be instantaneous. They can provide all sorts of documentation, information about the process, the culture, everything. It will just speed up hiring tremendously. Everybody will hear back. And then when it comes to interviews, you can really create a it can be very distinct and rigid, meaning like every candidate gets the same questions. It looks for the same types of responses. The rubrics are followed to a T. There's just all sorts of opportunities there that I see. So I think we're aligned. And then I think we'll see a reduction in hiring for all roles across the board. I've applied for a CE role at G, and it's been 3 weeks since final presentation. Last update was the role is at the decision stage, and that was a week ago. How long does the decision typically take? Check in today. I think if you were told that the role is at the decision stage, I think you heard a week ago. Check in today. Check in now. Stay on the live, hang out with us, but send that email, gracious and kind. Hey, recruiter, just checking in. I remain engaged and excited about the opportunity. I hope you had a great weekend. Something like that. But definitely check in today. Okay. I have 6 months to prepare for FANG and doing DSA. I don't know what DSA is. Should I also start to apply or wait for my preparation to complete? Okay, so lots of questions here. You have 6 months to prepare at doing a DSA. I don't know what a DSA is. And so again, I do this all the time. I'm not good with abbreviations. And so I just want to go off on like a slight tangent. Using abbreviations in written or verbal communication, just always state it out first, and then you can say, oh, I'm just going to call this DSA moving forward. It's just in the moment. I'm not sure what DSA is. I'm sure it's something really obvious when you tell me, but it's just really good to not use abbreviations because minds like mine, just in the moment, don't tend to connect to abbreviations unless they're incredibly obvious. And this one probably is, but I'm just missing it. So maybe you're completing a program or education, or it's a doctorate of something, and you're just waiting for that to complete. Should you start applying now? If you have 6 months to prepare, maybe 3 months out might be good, but I wouldn't hold off. But if you want to provide more context, that might be helpful. Oh no. Unfortunately, you've joined the many that have been impacted. Our chats have been extremely valuable to my philosophy on next steps and have me optimistic on a pivot. Excited about the possibilities. Okay. So I'm very, very sorry to hear this, Corey. Yeah, it's a bummer. I'm sorry. So 2 things I want you to do. There are still recruiter and sourcer opportunities out there. And if that still interests you, there's still opportunities there. The biggest mistake, in my opinion, that recruiters are making is they're not optimizing their LinkedIn background picture to highlight their skills, what they're looking for, their contact info, where they're open to working, to use the open to work banner, to actually add your resume into your LinkedIn profile. You can add your resume because you can add a website to the top of your profile and then use a Google Doc that will show up as a link. There's all sorts of opportunities to bring attention to your profile. People don't like the open to work banner, but Corey, you're a pretty likable person. There are people in your network who are not going to know that you're impacted, who want to help you. That open to work banner is not about future employers. It's about people in your network being able to help you who don't know you're looking, and you simply can't reach out to everybody in your network and tell them you're looking. So you can via LinkedIn comment or a LinkedIn post, but so many people are going to miss that. There's so much negativity around the open to work banner, and I personally just don't get it. So it's something that I strongly encourage. Okay, we are at the 30s. I'm going to take 2 seconds to quickly prompt on my services. The biggest one is go to practiceinterviews.com/AI, become an early adopter for our AI tool. We are going to start to add people to the platform, get user feedback, and iterate. And then we're looking at a launch in the next 2 to 3 months. Probably in January, we're going to have our official launch. We are not going to bring everybody on as an early adopter, but everybody who puts their email address in that sign up will get a discount. It's not going to be 5% or just 10%. It's going to be a big discount on anybody who comes in and pays for the tool initially. So I recommend everybody get in there. And then for any early adopters, I'm going to be doing some really good giveaways for user feedback, not $25 Amazon gift cards, things like the course for free, which is a $600 value, etc. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time here. We have a really good audience, and I want to get back to comments. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. You can find all my services there, one-on-one interview, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and our interview mastery course. Sign up for the AI tool. We have tons of free resources. Join our Slack community, etc. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I do go live 10 a.m. Pacific time every single Tuesday, and then I do new original content every Monday. Okay, let's get back to it. Okay, let me see where I was. Lost my train of thought. Here we go. John, what if you're at a role and you don't think you're a cultural fit, but the work is fine? I would say in today's landscape, if you are, John, working at Meta, which is your symbol, and let's just go with that assumption, I would say if your role, but you don't think you're a cultural fit, I would start exploring other opportunities. Maybe Meta isn't the right culture for you, or wherever you are. I don't know if it's Meta. I'm just, again, making an assumption, but keep your job for now, but start looking outwards. I don't know how long you've been there. If you want to provide more information, I'd be happy to help, but some cultures just aren't the right fit for us. And the cultural piece is really, really important. So if there's any other thoughts or information I can provide, I'm happy to help. Do you have any insight about when Apple is going to start taking external hires? I haven't heard a recent update about Apple, so we're just going to have to keep our pulse on that. But I will maybe reach out to a couple people and see what's going on. Jose, what have you heard about Apple taking external hires? Because this is kind of new information to me. On average, how long does it take someone stay in the same role, especially when talking about entry level? Okay, let's talk about averages. Yeah, I mean, most people who come into an organization at the entry level, let's say they like their job, they're performing well, usually to get out of that entry level, it's usually like 1 to 2 years. That's pretty typical for most roles, but definitely at the entry level, maybe more like 1 year. But is there a path? What's the path to getting out of entry level? Like, for example, let's take an easy path. Let's say you're an account strategist at Google, working for supporting Google Ads. Well, the next step up would be an account manager. So would an account strategist go to an account manager in 1 year? Maybe, maybe not. But that might be the next step. Now, some entry-level jobs don't have that really well-defined future path. So it could depend. But anybody going in entry level, think 1 to 2 years in that role, and then you should be getting a promotion, a raise, a new position, etc., something like that. In 2022, when I was imagining what a recruiter, I don't know what that word is, what a recruiter like, half of the recruiter's task went away by AI, which means half recruiter. Okay, so I'm struggling a little bit with the words, but that's okay. I believe what you're saying is that what a recruiter's role looked like in 2022, half of that work has been automated by AI? Yes, at least half. And my recommendation would be that companies fully automate the recruiting role, that we start to remove recruiters, or that companies at least A B test it. I know if recruiters were removed, I can guarantee one thing: time to hire would speed up. I know that because you would never wait on feedback. Everything would be automated and rolled through the process. I'd really like to see companies A/B testing this a little bit more. But yes, we are going to see the recruiter role disappear. This is again my opinion, but I don't think you'll see recruiters in 3 years. Um, I could be completely wrong, but I think that's where we're headed. Data structures and algorithms. Okay, so we'll go back to this. 6 months to prepare for FANG and doing data structures and algorithms. Should I apply or wait for my preparation to be complete? Well, I would just say what I say to everybody is, oh, okay, we're going back to this and you were helping me out. So I appreciate that. What I would say to anybody is 6 months of prep on data structures and algorithms really depends on your background, bachelor's, master's, PhD, right? But data structures and algorithms are a foundational part of interviewing for software engineers, software developers. So it's important, but I don't like to put a ton of time constraints around prep because everybody's so different. Is it okay to approach another recruiter of other teams at Google, given that I'm at the final stages of offer/rejection with another team? It is not. I would not recommend that. It looks extremely unprofessional, and I don't recommend it. Ultimately, of course, it's your choice, but I don't recommend that you do that. Um, if you're going to reject this offer, you're going to reject it, and you got to go through the other steps. But reaching out to other recruiters, you actually would the preferred path is you accept or decline, because reaching out to another recruiter could be seen as a bad cultural fit, and then you neither have an offer nor get to decline it. Just my 2 cents. I recommend strongly against doing that. Hey Jeff, I've been following you for a couple months and like your content very much. Thank you. You're doing great. Question: I was working at director level at Dell and recently applied to a position at AWS. The position is an L5. Wanted to check how low AW5 is at AWS. Any idea? A director at Dell should not be an L5 at AWS. Not in my opinion. Um, Maybe an L7, even maybe an L6. I think an L6 is a stretch down, but AWS L7 would be my recommendation. I think an L5 is way too big of a drop. Um, AWS compensates better than Dell, so ultimately, I think that people should make some decisions based on comp. Some it's comp, career trajectory, manager, team, opportunity, but director at Dell to an L5 at AWS it's too big of a drop, in my opinion. That you should be at an L7. If I were choosing director at Dell, L7 at AWS would be my recommendation as the lowest level. Maybe an L6, but definitely not an L5. That shouldn't stop you from moving forward and seeing if they'll up level you or consider you for a higher level. But if I was a recruiter, I wouldn't be recommending that big of a dip down, in my opinion. Let me know if you have more questions. Hey, thank you for all the tips. Helpful for G and other tech companies as well. Help me as I landed a job recently and navigating other potentials. Awesome. Yeah, I know we've had a long journey together. And so if you have landed a job, I mean, obviously, when you feel comfortable, come back and tell us more. Your scenario was very unique. I'm not going to share those details. I'll let you share anything that you want to share publicly. But yeah, and I got this really nice note from somebody who got a director level role at like a gaming company. And this was today. They left a YouTube comment and they were like, "Hey, this advice really helped me get in this role." I would say it's kind of funny. Like the irony of this whole business that I've created is I don't think I'm a Google guy. I work there and I can absolutely provide tips and helpful advice. But I think my feedback and the way I want people to go about answering interview questions and negotiating and conducting themselves is really more generic. It just so happens that my audience is heavily leaned into big tech, but I know that following a method, basically, it's really about three things. You go into the interview, and obviously, you show great body language, listening skills, eye contact, all that good stuff. But if you follow just a structure, you have a method that you're going to use, you know how to organize the information within that method, and you know the right level of detail to provide, you're going to crush any interview. And that's kind of what my content focuses in on. But if you want to tell us more, you can, but I want to leave the confidentiality in here as well. Hey, Jeff, thanks for your amazing content. Any tips on a 45-minute audit manager L5 interview? One with hiring manager and second with a cross-functional team member. Well, okay, so this is interesting. I'm just going back to, I don't think this was you. Okay, I was confusing you with somebody else. So for audit managers, I think that when we talk about audit, audit is pretty specific, right? Almost always audit, if we're talking about audit manager roles, we're talking about finance and accounting. If you're doing some other sort of technical auditing, please let me know. But really understanding and knowing the steps is going to be critical with the hiring manager. So having those great examples, but also like the actual technical or finance and accounting skills, and then being ready to be thrown a proposed scenario and seeing how you would adapt and adjust like you're in the role. Now with cross-functional, it's going to be a lot about collaboration, how you work with others. And when we think about audit in particular, like how are we working with others to make sure that we're doing the best on an internal audit, handling audits for our clients, customers, etc. I hope that's helpful. If you have more specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. And just an FYI, I recruited, if it is finance and accounting, which typically, again, audit is, I recruited those roles for quite a few years in my career. Hey, Don. Okay, you're currently applying for IC contributor Golang roles. Okay. I have higher level positions in the past. A recent recruiter took issue with the fact that I'm down leveling myself. I feel that in this tight job market, an IC role would be easier to get, and that's the role I enjoy. Should I tweak my resume so it downplays my past? Okay, let's talk about this. This is really important, Don. So, you should not tweak your resume so it downplays your past. Don't downplay your past. Your past is your past, okay? The only thing I would say is, as we look at our past career, I'm always looking to chop years off the resume, right? Like, so if you have some really old experience, then yeah, you can remove that from the resume. We're always trying to make ourselves look younger because pretty much most places they can't ask about our age, especially in the US. So that's one option that I recommend. But more so, you need to talk about really enjoying being hands-on technical, and that while you also enjoyed managing people, at this point in your career, you're just looking to get more hands-on and you want to focus more on the day-to-day work than leading and managing others. That's a normal career pivot. And by the way, managing people is really hard. And just because you've been in those roles in the past doesn't mean you need to be there in the future. And so if recruiters take issue with you wanting to go to an IC role, that's on them, not on you. You get to make your own choices. You're your own person. So if that recruiter took issue with it, they clearly just weren't listening to what you were saying. Let me know if you have more questions. Oh, Jason, Slack and the link. Works for some people, doesn't work for others, and nobody at Slack can seem to explain to me why, and I've tried and I've spent hours on this issue. If anybody knows how to fix it, please let me know. Just email me at jeff@practiceinterviews.com and say, hey, it's Jason. Can you send the Slack link directly to me? And I'll send it directly to you. If anybody has challenges, I'll send it directly to you. I don't know why. This has been an issue for years. And nobody at Slack can answer why some people have absolutely no problems with my link and some other people have tons of problems. I don't understand it, and I've lost my mind on it many, many times. Landed a year internship with Amazon Music as a project manager in my second year. Wonder what opportunities are open to me. That's amazing, first of all. A year internship is awesome. Um, Internally focused, meaning I can throw all sorts of ideas and concepts at you, but the biggest benefit of being there and being internal is that you should be asking the people around you, specifically leadership, not just your direct leadership, anybody you collaborate and interact with. What do you see as the opportunities? But be speaking to your passions, your goals, what you want to work on. You need to spend the time asking people for their time. So, virtual lunch, in person lunch, whatever it's going to be, to talk about career path, any recommendations, what they've seen. But you have a huge advantage being internal. You should be speaking with as many people as possible and setting up multiple conversations per week. What's the future of data analytics? Oh, if I had the, what is it? Why do I want to call it a glass ball? What's that orb we look into? I don't know. My brain, I'm losing it today. Um, I don't know. But I know that some analytics will be driven through AI, of course. The creativity and manipulating the data, I don't think AI is there yet. I think it's going to come soon. So I think a role like that could have some future challenges. Now, your ability to communicate the importance of the data, so that could be a different story. I think communication skills are really the differentiator here. The biggest piece that's going to not allow AI to take our jobs is our ability to communicate and communicate effectively. So I think that's going to be a critical item. Yeah. Let me know if you have more questions. Corey, why don't you DM me on LinkedIn? Let's chat for a minute. Okay. Hey, L6 is a senior level at AWS. L7 would be the best fit for director level elsewhere. L7 is a senior manager that typically has 10 or more direct reports that might level down for L6. 100% agree with this assessment. You're coming from another large, big technology company in Dell. You're going into an even bigger tech company in Amazon AWS. So L7 is absolutely the appropriate level. You should be coming in L7 with an option to down level you to L6, which will probably still pay better than your Dell director role, probably, right? So 100% agree. This is stated perfectly. Thank you. I heard Google takes into consideration the types of questions you ask at the end. What are some examples of impressive questions I can ask for an L4 Account Strategist Engage role? All companies take into consideration the questions you ask at the end of the interview. All companies, right? So, two things to note. Not all interviewers are going to give you time to ask questions. So just if that happens, don't worry about it. We can always take advantage of that and say, hey, I know we ran short on time. You got to go. Would it be possible to get your email address to send you some follow-up questions? If they say no, say, okay, I just wanted to check. My approach here, pause moment, my approach is different from other people's, and not everybody likes my approach. So I'm going to state that for the record. The questions are really up to you, but I don't really like all the questions being self-focused, meaning all the data and science shows us that people like talking about themselves, and the more they talk about themselves, the more they like you. So what does this mean? Our interviewer is Sue. We get to the end. Sue says, all right, we have 5 minutes left. Okay, what questions do you have for me? Sue, I want to know what you love most about your role. Sue, tell me what you love most about the company. What is the coolest thing what's the thing you enjoy the most about working with this team? What's the coolest initiative to the extent that you can share that you're working on right now? Love, cool. End of the interview. Sue gets off the video, leaves the room, whatever it's going to be. And Sue's like, I really like that person. They're really cool. I really loved talking with them. They don't know why they're going out with that mindset, but it's because they were talking about themselves and you used all these positive words. What often happens at the end with these questions is, what's the biggest challenge I'm going to face? I saw X in the news. Explain what's going on. And it's a major negative. It brings them down. It brings them to what's not working. It brings them to a major challenge that's going on. And then at the end, they're like, oh, I don't, they're feeling negative. And then they translate that feeling negative to feeling negative about you. I like the fluffies, the fluffy questions at the end of the interview where you try your best to learn more about them. And when you do that, usually they end up liking you better. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's okay to ask questions about like, well, what are some of the expectations? What is success going to look like for me in this role? I've seen all sorts of ridiculous questions, and I think a lot of questions have value, but I like the fluffy ones, and here's why. If you have lingering questions at the end of the process, if and when they want to hire you, that's when you ask the tough questions. And again, that's just my 2 cents, but I've found that strategy to be successful. And any tips in general for someone with no ads experience for the final interview tomorrow? How deep should I be getting into the certifications? I'm on a time crunch. We don't get into the certifications, but you utilize the certifications as a knowledge base. Okay, so you're going for an AS Engage role. So if they say, how would you deal with a customer who is struggling with their ads adoption? You're going to bring in some Google Ads specific solutions. And so that's where the certifications become helpful, because you have a knowledge about ads, which most people don't have coming into these roles. Now, some people do, but at least 50% don't. So you learn a little bit more through the certification. So you're not forcing what you learned by telling them you got a certification. You're utilizing it for the hypothetical answers, answering like you're in the role, and using some of that certification knowledge to help, especially in your solution. I hope that helps. If you need more clarity, please let me know. I've coached just a ton of account strategists, a ton. Would a recruiter want to use AI Copilot, which digitally prevents recruiter from ghosting, that garners accountability from stakeholders, and a recruiter could wear a badge which signifies differentiation? Sure. Yeah, I mean, any of these AI tools that prevent ghosting are great, but I would just say, why not just replace a recruiter? Again, I know like there's a lot of arguments against that, but any company that's not and has not built in some sort of automation software to guarantee that candidates don't get ghosted is just, they're behind the times. We're about to go into 2024, and these tools are available and incredibly cheap. Hi, Jeff. Do you have any insights on when GCP will start sending offer letters to those at the pending stage? I'm just seeing a case-by-case basis. So I don't. So my recommendation is to continue to check in with your recruiter once every week or two. But I've just seen inconsistency, and it's really appeared to be a case-by-case basis right now. How easy is it to switch roles at Google, say systems engineer to SWE or other engineering roles with other teams? Or should you just use the 20% time rule to work on your interests and eventually change to it? The 20% thing is, not everybody's going to like this, so setting it up. The 20% thing doesn't exist. It hasn't existed for so long. There are so few projects, so you can still kind of like internally apply to a 20% project, but it has to be relevant to your role, which makes it a lot more challenging. And even if you were to get into one of those 20% projects, the ongoing joke when I was there is we say, congratulations on your 120% project, because it was just adding 20% more time. You can't do 80% of your role. That's not the expectation. Hey, maybe things have changed, but that 20% thing has been really kind of gone for a long time. Now, systems engineer to SWE or other engineering roles, you're going to have to interview. That's just going to be a part of the process, because it's different enough that they're going to have to do at least a couple of more interviews. It's just something to be aware of. I hope that data helps. I've worked with small startups. I think it's through my career, more than 10 plus years, but none of them kick off. I'm looking for a change, but not getting an interview call from big companies. Any advice? My biggest piece of advice, well, I've got a lot of pieces of advice, but if you're not getting an interview call from big companies, it's probably because you're applying. I'm making an assumption, but gotta network. And networking is all about LinkedIn. You have to optimize your LinkedIn profile first. And then my strong recommendation is networking with a giving approach. What does that mean? It means you reach out to people, you share articles, videos, but you don't ask them to get you a job. That ultimately will get you a job, but it's just a long approach. We don't always know who the hiring managers are. It's not great to network with recruiters. They're not super helpful. And of course, if you know anybody, getting referred in. But it all starts with LinkedIn. Applying is really, really getting tougher and tougher, especially at some of these big companies. The people who were laid off are now getting revisited. So they're pushing for internal transfers and people who have been laid off and looking to rejoin the organization first. The big companies, especially big tech, it is very, very hard to get in with an external application at this time. And obviously, again, if you know anybody, getting referred in is a great path too. You have an invitation letter from Google, was a Code Jam finalist in 2003. Now interested in Google, but get only crickets from HMs. Any tips on how to get through? Seems my CV and messages are ignored. Same exact advice I just gave. You have to network, and you have to keep going. But again, if the approach is, hey, I'm a 2003 Code Jam finalist, I'm exploring roles at Google, how can you help me? You're probably not going to hear that much. But if you take that giving approach, not applying, but giving to people on LinkedIn and just reach out to people who you think are hiring managers and just say, hey, I came across this really cool article on how AI is changing the coding landscape. Just wanted to share it with you. Have a great day. Nothing else. And you got to do that time and time and time again. And eventually somebody's going to reach back and say, how can I help you? It's an approach that works. I definitely recommend tracking it. We have a free networking tracker resource on practiceinterviews.com, which you can use to track your networking. My final round of a product interview answered all the questions correctly. However, I was rejected. At the end, I did ask him something like his role and how does he manage all of it. Could this have impacted it? I don't think so. Sometimes answering all the questions correctly is not enough. And it's also hard to say correct in your eyes could simply be different from what the interviewer believed was correct. I don't think that there is one correct interview answer because every interviewer is a human right now and they have a lens and we can't really change that lens. So it's hard to know if they believed your interview answers were correct. But just asking how they manage it all and handle it all. That was a question directed at them, asking about them, which is a good question. So no, I do not believe that was the reason. Okay, so it looks like, I'm sorry, there's a 2 of 2 coming in here. So I'm going to try to answer this without it, but please come back. Approval might come in January. Is it normal in G to conduct interview without approval? We may be talking about a TAM role. Sometimes they're very confident it's going to get approved, so they do roll with the interviews, but maybe you can come back and let's try and get that 1 of 1 in there. It disappeared. That could just, sometimes that's StreamYard, the third party that I'm using. Sometimes the 1 of 1s or 2 of 2s, etc., get dropped. Thanks. Dropped an email to the recruiter as suggested. Fingers crossed. You've been in this process at G for 8 weeks since first application. Love to see this have a happy ending. And yeah, like 8 weeks actually isn't that long. So I hope things progress smoothly for you. Keep us posted. If you get rejected after the final interview, can you ask the recruiters to consider you for other roles? 100%. And one of the biggest goals is to build relationships with a recruiter at any organization to say, I really had a fantastic experience working with you. Is it okay if when I find roles online, I reach out to you about them? I will keep it to one role. I'll provide bullets for why I'm a fit. I'll provide you with an updated resume. I'll provide you with my availability. I will make it as easy as possible for you to help me. Is that something you're willing to do? So we can always ask them. Okay, if I just started my AI ML career, is it a good idea to start with junior level, even if my current role is a senior software developer? Um, it just depends on what companies are going to do because most companies, when they see senior people, they don't like to move them into more junior roles. I think it's just dependent on how open-minded you want to be. And if you're really open-minded, if you look at this as the future, which it is, and obviously AI and ML and generative AI, they're all like actually different categories, but um, see what companies' willingness is to bring you in at a lower level, and then talk with them about the fact that you have really good experience, foundational good experience, but you're looking to build on this skill set. The free tool is practiceinterviews.com, and then just go to free resources, and that's one of the 9 free resources in there. Your videos are awesome. My question, you interviewed for it. Okay, okay, cool. This is cool. We're getting everything. Hi, Jeff. Your videos are awesome. My question is, I interviewed for TPM role at Google. Now a recruiter came back to me saying the initial feedback is good, except we didn't get approval for the location. Okay, approval might come in January. Is this normal? It seems like they had approval and then they didn't have approval or something, but it's not totally unnormal. So just stay in touch with them. Touch base with them once a month, late this month, sometime in December, but that's not bad news. I joined a startup, overwhelmed with the work for the kind of pay. Should I switch? It's been 8 months. I do not believe that anybody should stay loyal to any company because when economic times get tough, they won't be loyal to you. That's a hard line in the sand that I like to draw, but it's just something I believe. Not something that everybody believes, but if you're unhappy, you should switch. And we should never put, I got to work there a year. I got to work there 2 years. I got to work there 4 years. If you're unhappy, you should switch jobs. Life is too short, and nobody's going to look at you negatively for doing that. You just need to tell a real positive story. I've learned a lot. It's been a great experience. But when I saw this opportunity, I was just so excited. And this appears to be a better fit for the future of my career. So you speak all positively. If you get rejected after final interviews, what are the odds you'll be considered for the same position when headcount opens up, say, for example, next month, or will they look to fill a new pipe? It just depends on what that interview feedback looked like. So if they're tracking and keeping tabs on past interview feedback and it was really good, then yeah, you could potentially be considered. Usually they'll reconsider people who make it all the way to the end of the process. So if you made it to final interviews, you probably did pretty well, but it's just an unknown. I can't say for sure, but I do tend to like to work with people where I have some data as opposed to no data. So if most of that data was coming through as positive, I would revisit you in a month. Hi, Jeff. I've talked to 2 engineers at G. Both have provided referrals, however, not been able to make it past the recruiter screening. Any advice? Should I just keep applying? Keep going and keep utilizing your referrers because they can poke, they can check in on your status. Keep going. It can be really, really challenging, but just don't stop and continue to push through your referrers. That's going to be the best path. Just because you get referred in doesn't mean we're getting past the recruiter screening, but keep trying. Okay. And utilize those referrers as much as you can. Okay. We are out of questions at the moment. So I'm going to go and prompt on my services. If no additional comments come in, we can just end here. but I'm happy to answer any additional questions that come in. If you go to practiceinterviews.com/AI, you can sign up to be an early adopter on our platform. What does that mean? We're going to give access to some of the early adopters and allow them to test the tool and shape the future of the tool. Why? Because I have a hypothesis. I think that I know what users want, but I'm not going to release the tool publicly until you tell me it's what you want, that it is valid, that what I'm thinking is backed by user experience. And I've tested all the competitors, and I can tell you pretty much almost all of them, with the exception of maybe a couple, haven't taken any user feedback into consideration. You can just tell. So that's going to be the foundational item. um, Early adopters, again, I can't guarantee that we will open it up to you, but what I can guarantee is that if you end up on that email list, we will give you an early adopter discount, and it's not going to be 5 or 10%. It'll be like 50% or something like that. I just have to work on the economics of it, obviously, and I haven't come to a final decision there. But if you just sign up for that email, you will get a discount to start, and it's going to be really good. The last thing I'll just say is, for the users that really sit and give feedback to the product manager who on my dev team, we're going to be giving like really nice giveaways, not a $20 Amazon gift card. It'll be more like a free course or a free coaching session or something that's going to be really robust, that's going to provide tremendous value for your time. I also provide one-on-one interview and one-on-one negotiation coaching. That's obviously the primary piece of my business, my interview mastery course. Stay tuned on that, because we're going to be doing a really nice Black Friday sale on that course. Probably going to be discounting the course more than I ever have. Just a good push for the end of the year, and a good time to buy the course to prep. What else do I want to talk about? Practiceinterviews.com. I got 9 free resources of templates you can download. They're all really good and really helpful. Join our Slack community. There's 4,000 members in there. If you like what I did today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 10 a.m. Pacific time every single Tuesday, and I bring out new original content every Monday. If I'm not going to produce, I will definitely put something in the YouTube community tab, like yesterday when I did not produce new content. I'm going to come back, answer the final questions. We're going to hop off. We had a great engagement today. This was one of the biggest audiences I've seen in a while at our peak. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll be back next week to answer more questions. Thank you. Yeah, we talked about the 2024 job market predictions. My prediction is it's going to be a pretty tough year, and hopefully with an uptick in 2025. But all future hiring years, we need to keep the pulse on AI and how AI is specifically impacting our job, because that's just going to happen more and more. And I think in 2024, you are going to be blown away by what AI does next year. Because if we just look back at 2023 and flash back to 2022, how much has come out in just the last year? It's crazy if you have a pulse on this market. Awesome. Thanks for visiting from New Jersey. I appreciate it. For those of us who do not have a bachelor's degree but have work experience, 7 to 10 years as a SWE and project management, what advice do you have for job apps given mixed job history? Well, I want you to focus on the job that you want. And the no bachelor's degree, it's becoming so, it's just not really relevant with 7 to 10 years of experience. That's plenty of experience. So I would say focus more on the job you want, and then cater your resume summary to be more software engineer focused, product focused, or project management focused. I hope that helps. Read the account strategist role. Should I expect hypothetical role specific questions in my final G&L interview? Okay. So if your final interview is a G&L interview, the G&L interview tends to lean behavioral. It really depends on your interviewer. The questions are not going to be role specific, but if you get a hypothetical question you want to solve like you're in the role, again, the questions, if you were to see the G&L questions, they're about 50-50 behavioral hypothetical, and it's a pick and choose. So your interviewer chooses. The number one thing to keep in mind about the G&L interview is its decision making. times you've made good decisions and bad decisions. Okay. And then how have you made decisions in collaboration with others? And then think about all those concepts in terms of how you would do it and specifically how you would do it in the AS role. Hey, Jeff, working for 2 years as a TPM at big tech with tech background. I'm thinking to move back to a tech role, customer engineer, data engineer. Is that a good idea? It's really up to you. All I can say is that the TPM comp has really jumped quite a bit over the last 2 years. Customer engineers and data engineers still get paid well. I think if you really enjoy like working with external clients and your TPM role doesn't give you that, because most TPM roles are internally focused. If you really want to work with external clients, it could be a good move. I don't see these three roles as going away that soon. I think they're all pretty protected, but I can just tell you, I've seen a huge uptick in TPM comp and big tech over the last couple of years. So it's just something to keep in mind because we work to make money. In 2024, when can we observe the significant changes in the first half or in late 2024? I don't know. I think I see the changes every day. I keep a pretty heavy pulse on everything that's happening in AI. So it's hard in the moment to reflect back. So sometimes we want to wait a year to reflect back. So I think that if we're reflecting back on 2023, I mean, AI has definitely become a part of our daily, weekly, monthly conversations, whereas in 2022, that just wasn't the case. So think about how much it's come into the conversation just generally. And I can say in last year, I was not talking about it at all. And I spent half my time talking about it this year. So if it was half this year, is it going to be 90% of my time? Next year, I hope I don't spend 90% of my time talking about AI. But at the end of the year, it can be a good time to reflect. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Hey, Jeff, will early 24 be better for mashing the gas or should I start now? I don't mashing the gas. I'm way out of my realm there. I have no idea what that means, but why don't you come and tell me what that means, Troy? And can you talk about why you focus so much on the LinkedIn profile? I've made over $1 million more in my career by having a good LinkedIn profile. And I hope that that's enough to convince people of the importance of a LinkedIn profile. And that's sharing quite a bit, but I've looked at and I've done models and comp models on why LinkedIn has been so important for me personally. And Google approached me. I didn't apply. I wasn't looking to work there. I wasn't looking to leave San Diego at the time. They approached me. And why? Because I had a very good, very professional, very up-to-date LinkedIn profile. That's why they found me. If I hadn't specifically added software engineers when I started recruiting software engineers, which I was not doing originally at my role when I got hired at that job, I started recruiting them 6 months later. Probably wouldn't have been found. They probably did a Boolean search and looked recruiter and software engineers, and boom, I popped up. And I had enough years of recruiting experience, etc. It's low-hanging fruit. A great LinkedIn profile doesn't take a lot of work. You can put in some good work, and then you're at the beach, you're sleeping, you're doing whatever with your life, and people come and find you. So there's just a million opportunities there. But I know for me, the value, just putting a monetary value, the monetary value of a good LinkedIn profile has been over $1 million for me. So I hope that's a good enough reason. Tell me what the heck mashing the gas means so I can learn something today, and maybe some other people can learn what that means. I've never heard that before. If a recruiter gives you a salary range, e.g. the pay for this role is between 190 and 200K early in the conversation, should you anchor in the given range, push it 5 to 10%, or say you're not sure? Well, Jason, the biggest piece here is understanding the company, right? Because a salary range at a company is usually just one component of the comp. Most companies will have at least a bonus target. Bigger companies are going to have an equity component. And I'm not really worried about just the base. I'm worried about the total package, the money I'm going to bring in. So if I knew that this was just one component and that there was a bonus and equity, I'm probably anchoring well into the 300s, high 300s, if I know those data points. But I definitely wouldn't be anchoring at just 5 to 10%. I'm going way higher with the concept in mind that we need to understand the company, right? So they provide that range, and you can ask, well, what else is included in the compensation package? You can ask, how does your company treat negotiations? Do you have any policies around negotiating compensation? Because I haven't really gotten into this today. I did a LinkedIn post. In the last week, I had 2 of my negotiation clients get their offers rescinded. I've been doing this for years and never seen this happen. And so this was just all on the company not sharing that they didn't want to negotiate, and everything was handled on the up and up graciousness and kindness. And these companies just absolutely botched it. And one of the companies I'm probably going to put on blast on LinkedIn, so stay tuned for that. They deserve it. I've reached out to all their executive leadership, all the hiring managers. Nobody's given me any response. I went to bat for my client, and they just chose to reject via email without ever introducing any of those policies. It's really bad. So when we anchor, we got to understand who's going to reject based on a big anchor and who's not going to. If we don't have that data, we have to just get that information up front and say, tell me more about your negotiation philosophy. Because if they say, yeah, we negotiate, we never negotiate, it will give you some more context. But one of the things you want to understand, Jason, is like, if the salary range is 190 to 210K, what are the other aspects of the compensation besides just base salary? Thank you for all you do, Jeff. Your content has changed my approach to interviews and apps. Self-study interview course is a game changer. Awesome. So happy to hear that. Yeah, that interview course, I mean, I know for anybody who plays all out with that interview mastery course, you're going to crush it. Okay, mashing the gas pedal to rev up the job search. Okay. My wife is looking to get back into the job market after staying at home for a few years. Okay, so mashing the gas pedal. Okay, so that's fun. That's funny. I never heard that. And then just to go back to, let's go back to this question, which was, well, early 24. Yeah, I think that sometimes early in the year is a little slower than people anticipate. Sometimes there's just a little bit that it, like the headcount approvals, especially at big companies, it can go a little slow. But yeah, there's no reason to not get after it, and not get after it now. Why wait until 2024? There's all sorts of things that can be happening now. Active networking, because that's a long approach. Optimizing the LinkedIn profile, updating the resume, all that should be happening this year. Yeah, Corey, thanks for being here. DM me on LinkedIn, okay? Because I'll share a couple of resources with you. And sorry to hear that you were impacted by layoffs. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I will be back next week with original content video and live next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. In the meantime, just as we're getting here, just to end on a really good note, if you have not signed up, practiceinterviews.com/AI. You can join as an early adopter. Can't guarantee I'll get you on the platform, but I can guarantee that you'll get discounts. So please sign up. Thanks so much for being here. I'll be back next week. Have a good one.